ورسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أما بعد. In continuation of our lessons on our mother Āishah radiyallahu anha, we are reading from Siyar A'alām An-Nubala by Al-Imām Al-Hafiz Abu Abdullah Shamsuddin Al-Dhahabi rahimahullah, what he compiled about the life of our mother Āishah. The intention is to pick lessons from the life of Āishah radiyallahu anha Mu'mineen, so that the rest of the women in our times can take after her, because she comes from amongst those that Allah said regarding them that as-sabiqun al-awwalun min al-muhajirin wal-ansar. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned as-sabiqun al-awwalun, those who came first. They were foremost amongst those who accepted Islam. Those were the companions. So the verse came and said, min al-muhajirin wal-ansar. Some of them migrated from Makkah to Medina. From amongst those who were brought along during the time of Hijrah was our mother Āishah radiyallahu anha. So the Quran says, as-sabiqun al-awwalun, these early Muslims who came into Islam, min al-muhajirin, some of them were from amongst the muhajirun, wal-ansar, some of them were from the ansar, وَالَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوهُمْ بِإِحْسَانٍ, and those who follow them upon goodness, radiyallahu anhum wa radu anhu. Allah is pleased with them, and they are pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So from the ways of those that Allah is pleased with is that they follow as-sabiqin al-awwalin. They follow those who came before, the early Muslims. So if a woman wants to be amongst those that Allah will be pleased with, from the things that she will fix in her mind is that her own model is Āishah, al-Mu'mineen, Siddiqa bintu Siddiq, radiyallahu anha. So this is one of the reasons why we felt we should explore the lessons from the life of our mother Āishah, so that when our women take after Āishah, radiyallahu anha Mu'mineen, they become like what Allah said in that verse, radiyallahu anhunna, they become from those that Allah is pleased with. So seeking the path of the pleasure of Allah is to know about the life of Āishah. In the last class, we read to us those from amongst whom who took knowledge from Āishah, the students of Āishah, radiyallahu anha, those who took from the knowledge of Āishah. I would recall before we proceed that during that class, one of the brothers, or a woman, I think I read that comment, which was saying that they were reporting narrations from her. And is it not that they were just reporting narrations from her and they were not like students to her? The scholars of hadith don't differentiate between the two, basically. Basically, once you report knowledge, like the companions, radiyallahu anhum, reported knowledge from the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, and so they are called his students. He nurtured them alayhi salatu wasalam. Likewise, the scholars who came generation after generation, when you report knowledge from a sheikh, they say he's your sheikh, he's your teacher, he's your guide, because a lot of things comes along with reporting knowledge from a person of knowledge. So they still use that word tilmiz. The scholars would still use that word tilmiz. So if a man reports knowledge from a woman, It is not wrong in our religion to refer to that man as the tilmiz of that woman. Just like if the woman reported knowledge from the man, it is not wrong to refer to that woman as the tilmiza of that man. This is what this ummah has come upon. And that's why one of our scholars who wrote on matters like this, Shaykh Abu Ubaidah, Mashhur Hassan al-Salman, he has a book, Inayatun Nisa bil Hadith al-Nabawi. Inayatun Nisa, how women have paid good enough, sufficient attention to the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in terms of learning it and teaching it from one generation to another. When in page 21 of his Inayatun Nisa, he wanted to talk about the scholars in the history of Islam who have women as their teachers. He used the same word. He says, وَقَدْ تَلْمَذَ وَقَدْ تَلْمَذَ كِبَارُ الصَّحَابَةِ وَالْأَئِمَّةُ الْمُحَدِّثِينَ وَكِبَارُ الْعُلَمَاءِ وَفَطَاحِلُهُمْ عَلَى كَثِيرٍ من الروايات وأخذوا عنهن وقبلوا أخبارهن وأخذوا عنهن. They took their reports. They took أخذوا عنهن. They took from them. They took knowledge from them. وقبلوا أخبارهن. And they received and accepted their narrations. So when he started that expression, he says, وَقَدْ تَلْمَذَ كِبَارُ الصَّحَابَةِ, eminent elderly companions, تَلْمَذَ. So in that case, those companions who made a talmud upon women, like Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu, like Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, like Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, like Abdullah ibn Zubair radiallahu anhuma. All these are from the Talamid of our mother Āishah radiallahu anha. There is no inkar in using that expression at all. That is the basic standard expression to say they received her knowledge, they transmitted knowledge from her from one generation to the other. So a man can be referred to as the tilmid of a woman if he has actually taken and received and learnt from her. There were scholars in our times too who have mothers, who have sisters, who have aunts, like Al-Imam Mushinqiti and some of the scholars from that part of the world. They learnt from their aunts, they learnt from their mothers. There are some of our brothers who have children that memorize Quran from their wives. Some of our brothers have children who memorize Quran from their wives. Perhaps the person talking has a child that memorized Quran from his wife. So there is no way the boy will mention his teachers without mentioning, I had memorized the Quran from one of my mothers. So this is the way of Islam. There is no being shy about it, even though in learning from a woman or in learning from a man, the appropriate conditions of the Sharia must be fulfilled. The appropriate conditions of the Sharia must be fulfilled. So in the history of Islam, we have Āishah radiallahu anha, Mu'mineen. She had the eminent people among her companions, like Abu Huraira, like Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, like Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib. He is usually referred to as Sayyid al-Tabi'in, and others, Al-Imam At-Tabari ibn Abi Rabah. We have Maymun ibn Mihran. We have Al-Hasan al-Basri. These are A'imma. Urwa ibn Zubair radiyallahu anhum. These are A'imma. Al-Imam Ikrima al-Barbari. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu. He had a son, Abu Ubaidah. He was also from the students of our mother Āishah radiyallahu anha. One of the scholars, Al-Imam Abu Abdullah Al-Hakim An-Nisaburi, when he described the knowledge of our mother Aisha, he said, فَحُمِلَ أَنْهَا رُبُعُ الشَّرِيعَةِ حُمِلَ أَنْهَا كيف كم رُبُعُ الشَّرِيعَةِ. About a quarter of the entirety of the Sharia was transmitted from our mother Aisha. So you find very, very eminent scholars. Muhammad al-Kabir. I saw the shuyukh, the learned ones from the companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the elders. يسألونها عن الفرائض. يسألون عائشة رضي الله عنها. ماذا عن الفرائض. They were asking Aisha about the matters, the legislations regarding inheritance. Aisha, she was teaching the men about some of the matters regarding inheritance. Radiallahu anha. So having seen her have these lots of women, because yes, there were women in the history of Islam who were also knowledgeable. I have A'alām An-Nisa في عالمي العرب والإسلام. أعلام النساء في عالمي العرب والإسلام by Umar Rida Kahala. It's a book in 3 volumes. It is just talking about women who were scholars in Islam right from the time of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam until our own times, the later times. He mentioned about 1,500 women about that who were big scholars. Many of them also had men who learned from them. There were a lot of women who were scholars, and there were a lot of men who learned under women. But there is no single woman who have the like of those from who were students of Aisha. What are we saying? There is no woman in the history of Islam that has had the kind of scholars who took from her like we have taken from Aisha. That is, the best students in the history of Islam took from Aisha. Abu Huraira took from Aisha, radiallahu anha. Abdullah ibn Abbas took from Aisha, radiallahu anha. Abdullah ibn Umar took from Aisha. Look at these great men. They were still students to Aisha. And we had a lot of them. Some of the scholars say those who are recorded as those who took from the knowledge of Aisha, they are mentioned to be about 350 from those who took from the knowledge of Aisha amongst men. About 350 or thereabouts. So there are 3 questions, 3 issues we would like to address regarding this, bi'idhnillah. Discussing the students of Aisha, we like to discuss 3 issues, bi'idhnillah, before we proceed. The first issue we like to talk about is, why is it that we have so many elderly and noble scholars learning from Aisha? Why? Why do we have many elderly noble scholars learning from Aisha? I have mentioned about 5 reasons. Why was it that Aisha had all these number of great men? Each of them was from amongst the A'imma. Each of them from the scholars, those from whom who benefited from the knowledge of Aisha. Look at Al-Imam Mujahid ibn Jabr al-Makki. He was great Imam. Any one of them you mention, you have a lot of things to say about him. Zakwan as-Saman Abu Salih. This is from the scholars of the people of Egypt. rahimahullah. All these people were great men. How come we have so many elderly and noble scholars learning from Āishah? We have 5 things we can point to. The first one we can point to is that ذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهَا يُؤْتِيهِ مَن يَشَاءُ. This is from the fadl of Allah upon Āishah radiyallahu anha. Allah has favored her with this blessing. Allah favored Āishah that she has students that no woman can have their likes. Which woman will have Abu Huraira as a student after Āishah radiyallahu anha? Which woman would have Abdullah ibn Umar as a student after Āishah? So you see that it is a fadl. ذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهَا. That is a favor of Allah upon who? Āishah. That Allah favored her to have these kinds of students with her, radiyallahu anha. That's why Imām Adh-Dhahabi said that أفقه نساء الأمة على الإطلاق. أفقه نساء الأمة على الإطلاق. من هي؟ Āishah radiyallahu anha. It was a special favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Āishah. The second reason we can point to why Āishah radiyallahu anha has all these great men from her students is that the knowledge that she had radiyallahu anha, she had knowledge that it is difficult to find from a man. She was the wife of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said to us in a number of ahadith, whenever wahyu came, it would only come to me while I am in the room of Āishah. She used to see him alayhi salatu wasalam wa radiyallahu anha have revelations coming down to him. Sometimes the head of the Prophet will be upon the laps of Āishah, his wife, radiyallahu anha. So she used to see what people did not see regarding the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So definitely she knew about the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam what many other people did not know. She learned from the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam what no one would have an opportunity to learn. She saw from the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam what no one would have seen. When some of the tabi'un, Al-Imam Mujahid ibn Jabr occurs in this narration, and that hadith occurs in Sunan Abi Dawud. Some of the tabi'un, I also can remember that Ata ibn Abi Rabah, these are the A'imah from amongst the tabi'un. They were discussing whether it is lawful for a man to see every nudity in his wife, or for a wife to see everything in the body of a man. So they were shy. They wanted to come and ask Āishah about it. So when they came to her, she said they were shy. So she was telling them, ask me whatever you want to ask me. I am your mother, radiyallahu anha. So ask me and I will provide you the answer. So they were asking her, radiyallahu anha, did you see all of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And she said, yes, I saw everything about him. We even used to have our ghusl together. So it means, radiyallahu anha, she has access to what people don't have access to. She has access to discussions that people don't have access to. And because everybody has a need for that knowledge, then definitely the males who will learn from her will be large in number. And that is the reason why no woman should want to teach men, or no man should be looking for a woman as his own teacher, except that she has something she wants to teach you that no man knows. If no man knows it, then okay. But as long as people know it, look for a man to teach you. Some people will hide under what we are saying now to say, oh, you see, many men learned from Āishah. So they'll be looking for a woman to teach them Nahu or Sarf or Tajweed. Using this as an example, these people are just looking for fitna for themselves. Āishah radiyallahu anha had knowledge that people did not have. That was why the men necessarily had a need to look for access to obtain that knowledge from her. She knew what many men did not know, radiallahu anha, about the religion of Allah. The third reason why we have a lot of men learning from Āishah, radiallahu anha, is that even in the knowledge that men had, even in the knowledge that she has, men also had it. Things that she learned from the Prophet alayhi salatu salam, maybe the Prophet said them while he was in the masjid, and so she heard it. Other men heard it. Her own knowledge and her understanding was far deeper than the understanding of many other people. So apart from the fact that she has بعض الأمور التي هي اختصت بها, she has issues that she was alone in knowing them, that people had to know. They started asking her, help us ask Āishah. You remember the hadith, 3 men came to the house of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They want to ask about his salat. They wanted to ask about his fasting. They wanted to ask about his standing up in the middle of the night. I'm sure we remember this. They came to her because she's the one who would know about it. When the companions, radiallahu anhum, and the tabi'un, there were disagreements about how many rak'ats of Qiyamul Layl did the Prophet used to observe. They came to Abdullah ibn Abbas, radiallahu anhum. He said, go and ask Āishah. So even in the matters that she knew and other people knew, her knowledge, her understanding was deep and so required in obtaining knowledge. We remember that Abu Musa al-Ash'ari said, radiyallahu anhu, ma ashkala alayna ashab Rasulillah. You can say ashabi Rasulillah. Ma ashkala alayna ashabi Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallama hadithun qattun فسألنا عائشة رضي الله عنها إلا وجدنا عندها منه علما. Any hadith we found difficult to understand, فسألناها عنه, and then we ask Aisha رضي الله عنها about it. إلا وجدنا عندها منه علما. We found that she has some knowledge about it. So if you ask, as we said at the beginning of these points, why was it that a lot of men reported knowledge from Āishah? The first reason was that ذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ يُؤْتِيهِ مَن يَشَاءُ. It was a favor of Allah upon Āishah. The second reason we gave was that she was privy to information and knowledge that and aspects of the revelation that perhaps the people were not exposed to, because she was a wife of the Prophet. She was always with him, alayhi salatu wasalam, in every circumstance as far as the home was concerned. And even in the matters, thirdly, even in the matters that she knew and others knew, her understanding was very, very deep. So if we have a woman in our own time here now, who, yes, she learned Sahih al-Bukhari, she learned the Quran, she's able to make tafsir, and then she has a deep understanding that everybody knew that this woman is outstanding, then men will take the knowledge from her, of course, following the conditions with which knowledge was taken. I remember a woman who is called Karimatu al-Kushmi Haniya. Karima al-Kushmi Haniya, Ummul Kiram. She taught Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi Sahih al-Bukhari. She used to live in Makkah. It was said of her that every question you have about a hadith or a verse of the Quran, if you took it to her, she would provide you an answer. She was so knowledgeable. So if a woman became like that, yes, men can take from her knowledge. Of course, she will follow, and they will follow the conditions for doing that. One of which is that such women will be completely veiled. And those kinds of sittings will not take place in the masjid. It will take place in her home. It will take place in her home, in the presence of her maharim, and then she will be completely veiled up. Women, we are coming back to that. Women did not choose to sit down in the masjid to make halqa. It is not a practice in this ummah. One woman sits down in the masjid, she's the head of the halqa, whether there are men there or not. It's not a practice from the practices of our religion. We'll come back to that if Allah permits. So if you ask, why was it that we have a lot of men, as we started with, taking knowledge from Āishah? The first reason is that that's a favor of Allah upon Āishah. The second reason is that she was privy to aspects of knowledge that people did not know about. The third reason is that she had knowledge about things that, yes, people knew those things too, but her own understanding was very deep, and she was well known for that, so people required explanations from her, radiyallahu anha. The fourth reason why many men took knowledge from Āishah and she became so well known, radiyallahu anha, and Allah knows best, is that women may not be prophets, and there is no woman who is a prophet, but a woman can help convey the message of the Prophet of Allah. Allah told us in Surah Al-Anbiya, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِن قَبْلِكَ إِلَّا رِجَالًا نُوحِي إِلَيْهِمْ مَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِن قَبْلِكَ إِلَّا رِجَالًا نُوحِي إِلَيْهِمْ. We have not sent a messenger or a prophet before you, إِلَّا رِجَالًا, except that those prophets, those messengers, they were what? Men. Nuhi ilayhim. We gave revelation to them. We inspired them. We gave them inspiration. So all the prophets of Allah are men. This is the position of the people of Islam. All the prophets of Allah are men. There is not a single woman amongst the prophets and the messengers of Allah. But there are women who conveyed that message. One of them was who? Āishah, radiyallahu anha. And as Imām Al-Hakim An-Nisaburi said, Humila anha rubu'u sharia. Humila amman an Āishah. Come, rubu'u sharia. A quarter of the sharia was reported from Āishah. So if a quarter of a religion, Islam, will be reported from a woman, then it requires that many people will be involved in transmitting knowledge from her. So you say Abu Huraira reported from her, Amir al-Shabi amongst the Tabi'un reported from her, Maymun ibn Mihran, Mujahid, all these great men were involved in further transmitting the religion of Allah from this woman. Yes, she was not a prophet, and no woman was a prophet, but as a woman, the women should be involved in the transmission of knowledge from the prophets of Allah, alayhi salatu wassalam. The women should be involved, just like Āishah was involved. She learned and transmitted knowledge. This will also make us understand. We have many very learned brothers, bi'idhnillah. There is no blame that their wives learn from them. And we have many examples in the history of Islam. Their wives would learn from them and transmit their knowledge in subsequent generations. There were a lot of scholars of Islam whose wives were very, very big scholars who transmitted knowledge after the demise or even during the lifetime of their scholars. Of course, in all of these, following the rulings of the Sharia in terms of doing that. Number 5, if you follow Allah's dictates, Allah will honor you as He wills. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. Āishah radiyallahu anha accepted her father's guidance to marry the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Allah honored her with something that no other woman has. No other woman in the world. No other woman. No anywhere. Whether amongst the Muslims or amongst the non-Muslims. Āishah was very, very, very knowledgeable, radiyallahu anha. And all of that were from the blessings of her marriage to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. She achieved that lofty place just within 9 years. She got married at age 9. And her husband, the Prophet ﷺ, passed away when she was 18 years. And she died when she was 68 years. Meaning that for 50 years, half of a century, she was busy teaching the religion, teaching the religion, teaching the religion. And Allah honored her with the religion. I think that will suffice about the number of people who reported from Āishah. It was a favor upon Āishah. Āishah knew what people did not know. And even what people knew, her understanding was deep and well respected. Then Allah wanted it to be for us a lesson that women too should be involved in the transmission of the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another entire matter I like us to look at as from the lessons, if we consider the number of the teachers of Āishah, is that we should ask this question. If Āishah radiallahu anha Ummul Mu'mineen, if she were alive today, will she also appear on YouTube? Ikhwa, if Āishah radiallahu anha, if she was alive, will she come out on YouTube as the women? Some of the women are coming out on YouTube to read Quran. Some women come out on YouTube to read Quran. Some men too go to schools, secondary schools, start telling girls to read Quran. Bring it to YouTube. Will our mother, upon her knowledge, radiallahu anha, upon the kind of guidance that she was upon, radiallahu anha, upon the fact that she was the most beloved woman to the Prophet Muhammad, alayhi salatu wasalam, upon the fact that Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam used to say taslim to Āishah, radiallahu anha, upon the fact that she was referred to as At-Tibyān in the Quran by Allah, upon the fact that Allah revealed her forgiveness, her freedom from indecency from the heavens, tutla ila yawm al-qiyamah, and it will be read until the day of Qiyamah. Upon this great status of Āishah, radiallahu anha, ikhwa, if our mother was alive today, do you think she will come out on YouTube as some people are doing now, coming out on YouTube, showing themselves up here and there? Will our mother Āishah radiallahu anha come out on YouTube? I say that for four reasons. For four reasons, our mother radiallahu anha would not have been on YouTube, as we have seen many of the women on YouTube today, unfortunately. The first reason why I say that is that Allah had told us about them, radiallahu anhunna, and the command that He gave to the women of Islam. Allah said, وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ يَا نِسَاءَ النَّبِيِّ لَسْتُنَّ كَأَحَدٍ مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ إِنِ اتَّقَيْتُنَّ فَلَا تَخْضَعْنَ بِالْقَوْلِ. O women, O wives of the Messenger, radiallahu anhunna, لَسْتُنَّ كَأَحَدٍ مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ. You are not like the rest of the women. If you truly fear Allah, فَلَا تَخْضَعْنَ بِالْقَوْلِ. Don't go on start to twist your voices. وَيَطْمَعَ فِي قَلْبِهِ مَرَضٍ. And then those who have diseases in their hearts begin to become sick, further sick. وَقُلْنَ قَوْلًا مَعْرُوفًا. If you speak straight. The women reading Quran on YouTube today, will they speak straight? Doesn't reading the Quran require that it is read with a sonorous voice? Do you think our mother Āishah will come on YouTube to read Quran after this instruction? And then Allah said to them, وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ. Stay in your homes. How does a woman who is on YouTube fulfill staying in her home? In fact, when a woman is on YouTube, she's inside every home, everywhere in the world. Just think about it. When a Muslim woman comes out on YouTube, some women go and start teaching people how to dress, how to wear hijab on TikTok. I've also seen one of our women not being careful enough, displaying her daughter as a means of advertisement. Is this the same girl that Allah has commanded to stay in her homes? So you put her on a plastic chair and then you spread her all over the world. Is this part of staying in the home? Is this part of وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ? And even many of the scholars who believe that veiling the face is not compulsory, and veiling the face is compulsory. But even those who say veiling the face is not compulsory, many of them say that staying inside the house is compulsory. So when you come on YouTube, are you staying inside the house? When a woman comes on YouTube, is that part of Qarna fi buyutikunna that Allah commanded? So I am sure bi'idhnillah that our mother Āishah would not have come out on YouTube. Why? Allah said to them, إِنِ اتَّقَيْتُنَّ فَلَا تَخْدَعْنَ بِالْقَوْلِ. When women come on YouTube, they come and twist their voices. And then he says, وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ. Stay in your homes. And coming out on YouTube is coming out to the entirety of the world. The second reason I think that our mother Āishah radiallahu anha would never have come on YouTube, as many of the women are on YouTube today, is that Allah said to us in the same surah, Surah Al-Ahzab, وَإِذَا سَأَلْتُمُوهُنَّ مَتَاعًا فَاسْأَلُوهُنَّ مِنْ وَرَاءِ الْحِجَابِ ذَلِكُمْ أَطْهَارُ لِقُلُوبِكُمْ وَقُلُوبِهِنَّ وَمَا كَانَ لَكُمْ أَن تُؤْذُوا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ وَلَا أَن تَنكِحُوا أَزْوَاجَهُ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ أَبَدًا. Allah says, إِذَا سَأَلْتُمُوهُنَّ مَتَاعًا. Where you want to speak regarding any matter to the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, do that from behind the veil. So as knowledgeable as our mother Āishah was and is, it is not possible that she came to YouTube, because coming on YouTube also contradicts staying from behind the veil. That's why we say, even those men who came to learn from Āishah, they were learning from her. How? From behind the veil. That is the instruction they have from Allah. Now somebody can say, those ones are restricted to the wives of the Prophet. What is most authentic and Allah knows best is that وَإِذَا سَأَلْتُمُوهُنَّ مَتَاعًا فَاسْأَلُوهُنَّ مِنْ وَرَاءِ الْحِجَابِ. It's not restricted to the wives of the Prophet. Why? Allah told us why they should ask from behind the veil. ذَلِكُمْ أَطْهَارُ لِقُلُوبِكُمْ وَقُلُوبِهِنَّ. It will make the minds, the hearts of the companions to be guaranteed of purity. It will also do that to the wives of the Prophet. Do the men and women today not require purity in their hearts? If Allah told the companions, what will guarantee purity of the minds is that ask the women from behind the veil. Let your communication with women be from behind the veil. He said that regarding the companions. He said that will guarantee you purity of the hearts. How about the women of our own times and the men of our times? And that's what Al-Imam Al-Shinkiti rahimahullah, he said there are verses people interpret. They give it an interpretation, and there are things in that verse that show that that interpretation is wrong. So ذَلِكُمْ أَطْهَارُ لِقُلُوبِكُمْ وَقُلُوبِهِنَّ is evidence that طَهَارَةُ الْقُلُوب is matluba, is encouraged for every Muslim. So if طَهَارَةُ الْقُلُوب, purity of hearts, is encouraged for every Muslim, then every Muslim should speak with women from behind the veil. So if the women are to be spoken to from behind the veil, is it that same woman who will come on YouTube? Okay. How about when she veils up herself and comes on YouTube? She would have violated that verse on وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ. If she says, okay, I will cover the entirety of myself, no man will see me, and then I'll come out on YouTube, on TikTok, and so on, you would have contradicted that verse on وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ. Stay in your house, because you can't be on YouTube. When you are on YouTube, you are in every house in the world. But when you are in your home, and people come to take knowledge from you, that is when you have fulfilled that verse. So all of these should be fulfilled. The third thing that makes us say that if our mother Āishah was alive, she will not be on YouTube, is kalamuha an khuruj an-nisa'i ila al-masajid. What she said, radiyallahu anha, regarding women coming to masjid. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had said that La tamna'u ima Allahi masajid Allah. Do not prevent the female slaves of Allah from the house of Allah. Allow women to go to the masajid. But later on, after the Prophet went away, alayhi salatu wasalam, people began to do things that were inappropriate. So she used to say, radiyallahu anha, لو أدرك رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم ما أحدث النساء لو أدرك رسول الله. If the Prophet had seen ما أحدث النساء, what the women began to bring after he went away, لمنعهن كما منعت نساء بني إسرائيل لمنعهن. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would have prevented women from coming to the masjid. While women were going to the masjid with zina, they were dressing with tib, making perfume, wearing fine clothes, designers, and all of these. Even when these things are inappropriate, should be properly covered. So if Āishah, even regarding coming to the masjid, she still has a view that if the Prophet was alive, he will not permit you to come out. Then radiyallahu anha, she would not radiyallahu anha come on YouTube if she was alive today. This statement regarding the women coming to masjid would have been an indicator that if she was alive, she would not come on YouTube as some of the women are doing today. The fourth reason why we say our mother Āishah, as knowledgeable as she was, as carefully conscious of Allah as she was, as well known, as beloved by Allah and His Messenger as she was. The fourth reason why we say if she was alive today, she would not come on YouTube is that ما خرجت إلى أي مسجد في حياتها لتعلم الناس. Āishah did not come to the masjid to set up a halqa to teach the people. She didn't come to the masjid. I'm the wife of the Prophet, and I know many things many men did not know. So she sits down at the middle of the masjid. She starts teaching women. This never happened. Not during the time of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Not after the time of the Prophet radiyallahu anha alayhi salatu wasalam wa radiyallahu anha. She did not sit down in a halqa in a masjid to teach women. So if a woman did not sit down in a halqa in a masjid to teach women alone, is that same woman who will come up on YouTube to say she wants to teach both men and women? So the men who took knowledge from her, how then did they learn from her? They will go to her house. They will go to her house. They will sit down in the presence. Bi'idhnillah, there are narrations in this book regarding that. There are narrations in this tarjama of Āishah in this book, Siyar A'alām An-Nubala, on how some of the men took knowledge from her, radiyallahu anha. She did not come out in the public, in the masjid, to have a special halqa for women or a special halqa for both men and women, and then she starts giving a lecture. No, she did not do this, radiyallahu anha. So people should not use the men taking knowledge from Āishah as an excuse to bring the women out. Stay in your homes. وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ. Stay in your homes, O women. وَلَا تَبَرَّجْنَ تَبَرُّجَ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ الْأُولَى. And don't also forget, وَإِذَا سَأَلْتُمُهُنَّ مَتَاعًا فَاسْأَلُوهُنَّ مِنْ وَرَاءِ الْحِجَابِ. So for these four reasons we say, if our mother Āishah was alive, radiyallahu anha, she would not come on YouTube as many of the women now do. There's also a third matter we like to raise. The first matter we raised was that how come we have many men taking knowledge from Āishah? We gave about 4 or 5 reasons why it appeared like that. The second issue is that if our mother Āishah was alive, with all the knowledge that she has been described with, considering the number and the eminence of the men who took knowledge from her, radiyallahu anhum, if she were alive, would she have come on the YouTube to say she was teaching and spreading knowledge? We said no. Why? Firstly, because Allah said, وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ. Stay in your homes. And the one who is on YouTube is not in her home. Allah also said, وَإِذَا سَأَلْتُمُهُنَّ مَتَاعًا فَاسْأَلُوهُنَّ مِنْ وَرَاءِ الْحِجَابِ. Coming on YouTube also violates this verse. We also know that she condemned the attitude of the women who came to the masjid and they were not properly dressed as they should be. If she was alive, then she would not do the kind of things we find these women doing. And then fourthly, she was not known to have come into a masjid, to sit down in a masjid, gather the women, and then begin to teach both men and women, or begin to teach women alone. If the men had an issue, they went to her house, they knocked her door, she dressed with hijab, covering the entirety of herself, and then she had her mahram with her, and then they asked her whatever they wanted, and then she provided the answers, and then the men left. This was the foundation of taking knowledge from her. Radiallahu anha. There is the third thing I also think we should quickly look at before we proceed. How will women learn the how of it? The how do women take knowledge in Islam? Whether from men or from fellow women. How? The ulama have mentioned 3 ways. And these 3 ways occur in a single hadith. The hadith of Abu Huraira radiyallahu anhu. The first way they have mentioned, and one of those who have spoken extensively on this matter, was Al-Imam Muhammad Nasir al-Albani rahimahullah. In fact, an entire book was compiled by his own daughter, Sukayna, who was also a scholar, rahimahullah, hafizahullah. I think she's still alive. Sukayna, the daughter of Al-Imam al-Albani. She was a learned person. She was very knowledgeable. During the time of Al-Imam al-Albani, she used to write his introductory notes to his books. She wrote the introductory note to his Sahih al-Bukhari. Sometimes when he wrote, she used to revise it. Her name is Sukayna. She has a book she wrote with her younger sister in 3 volumes about how to teach people the Quran. I have it. Kayfiyatu ta'lim nas al-Quran. How do you teach people the Quran? In 3 big volumes. Sukayna wrote it. So she compiled the explanations from her father, rahimahullah, about how women should take knowledge. 3 things were mentioned, and all the 3 things were derived from the hadith of Abu Huraira that we shall read to us. The first way women learn in the religion of Islam is that they come to the masjid, or they come to gatherings, and in the masjid there are men and there are women. Men sit in the places of men, women sit in the places of women in the masjid. So we have a learned person from among those bi'idhnillah we consider fearfully conscious of Allah, who stands in front to teach the entire generation. And that is picked from how the Prophet used to do, alayhi salatu wasalam. He will stand, how the Prophet would do, alayhi salatu wasalam. He will stand in front of the congregation and teach the people. There will be men in the front and there will be women at the places. So if you have a gathering, maybe a school, you have men, you have women, maybe a lecture place, you have men in front, you have women, just like we have in the masajid. Then we can say that yes, the way the masjid is, women sit in the front, the men at the back, like in a lecture place, like in a hall, and so on, that are like masajid. Then such a thing can take place in the masjid. We have a learned pious man addressing the entire congregation. This has been there since the history of Islam. It is based on a hadith that we shall read to us, inshallah. The second way women should take knowledge is fil buyut. They should take knowledge in the houses, fi majalis, in gatherings. Khafat bin nisa. These gatherings are special for women. Women alone gatherings should be at homes. not in the masjids. One of the scholars says that it is an innovation in the end times that women come to gather in the masjid because they want to learn. No. If women want to learn, the gathering should be in homes. The gathering should be in homes. The gatherings should be in homes. Even Salah. The Prophet ﷺ encouraged them. The gathering should be for Salah at homes. When the women will come back to this hadith, they asked the Prophet ﷺ, pick a day to teach us. What did he say, alayhi salatu wasalam? Alayhi salatu wasalam. What did he say? We'll come back to that. He says, Maw'idu kunna baytu fulana. He didn't tell them, come and gather in the masjid. He said, Maw'idu kunna baytu fulana. The day that I pick for you, the time that I pick for you should be in the house of so-so. So women learn in the house. Pick a house. And then the teacher, a man, will go there to teach them, as the Prophet used to do. And there are narrations about Omar doing that too. Radiallahu anha. So women don't come and gather in the masjid. The only time women should come in the masjid is when, like, in the times when the Prophet ﷺ would complete his salah, he will address both men and the women. So if women are there, yes. In fact, the woman can go to masjid. Why? There is going to be Sheikh so coming to teach in that masjid. That's why I'm going to the masjid. It's an additional reason to go to the masjid. But when this is not the case, when it was women alone, the Prophet told them, go to the house of so. Baytu kunna, maw'idu kunna, alayhi salatu wasalam. He said, maw'idu kunna baytu fulana. The agreement, the arrangement for you, what I fix for you is the house of so and so woman. So then that happens there. The third one is that gathering, if a woman wants to learn, she goes and meets a woman who is vast in what she wants to learn. You want to learn tajweed, go and meet a woman in her house who has learned tajweed. Women used to do that. Women used to come to the house of the Prophet ﷺ to learn from Āishah, to learn from Salama, to learn from Hafsa, radiyallahu anha. Women used to go to the homes. So if you want to take knowledge, go and take that knowledge from the woman in her house. Go to the house of a woman. Go and take the knowledge. Or you go to the gatherings in the masjid. Go and take the knowledge. If the gatherings in the masjid are for women alone, they lack basis. The gatherings that are known in the masjid will be headed by men, for men and women. Men in their places, women in their places. If it is women alone, it should be as the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, Mu'idu kunna baytu fulana. This is the Prophet's statement, alayhi salatu wasalam. And like we mentioned, these three things come from the hadith of Abu Huraira radiyallahu anhu, when he said that, Anna niswata min al-ansar kulna li rasulillah. Some women amongst the Ansar came and said to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, Inna la nastati'u an na'tiyaka. We become unable to come to you ma'ar rijal. And you are with men. This means that when they were learning, they were not free mixing. The women could not go in the gatherings to meet the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam as the men were doing. Yes, they learned together, but they were separate. The men were separate. The women were separate. So the women said, we could not come to you. The women gather around you. We could not come. We just stay far away. In another report, it says, Ma nakdiru alayka fi majlisika min ar-rijal. Ma nakdiru alayk min ar-rijal. We become unable to reach you while you are with the men. So the Prophet ﷺ said to them, Maw'idukunna baytu fulana. Because after they told him that they become unable to come, It says, فَوَاعَدْنَا يَوْمًا نَأْتِكَ فِيهِ وَاعِدْنَا. Promise us, فَوَاعِدْنَا يَوْمًا. Promise us one day. نَأْتِكَ فِيهِ. We can come to you on that day. He did not say come to the masjid. He said go to the house of so-so. So Shaykh, Ustaz, if you want to teach women, gather in a house. Look for a place to gather, not in the masjid. Look for a place to gather if you are teaching women alone, not in the masjid. And when you go, don't go alone. If you go to the gatherings where you teach women, don't go alone. And let there be a gap, a barrier between you and the women. May Allah protect each and every one of us. So the Prophet ﷺ said to the women, مَوْعِدُكُنَّ بَيْتُ فُلَانَ فَجَاءَ فَتَحَدَّثَ مَعَهُنَّ. So the Prophet ﷺ would go there and he would teach them. In another riwayah it says, وَأَتَهُنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ الْيَوْمِ وَلِذَلِكَ الْمَوْعِدِ. أَتَاهُنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ الْيَوْمِ. The Prophet ﷺ would visit the women on those days, وَلِذَلِكَ الْمَوْعِدِ, and upon that agreement with them. So you will see that, yes, they used to learn together in the masjid. That affirms the first one. He gave them permission, meet me in one house. That's the permission for second one, that a man can teach women when they gather in a place, not in the masjid. And the third one, yes, if the gathering now has a woman, if it is a woman who has that ability to teach, not just telling stories, talking, teaching in terms of teaching. You want to learn Nahu, I will teach you Nahu. You want to learn As-Sarf, I teach you Sarf. You want to learn a book of Aqidah, come, I will teach you Aqidah to Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. You want to learn Balagha, come, I will teach you Balagha. You want to learn Fiqh Sunnah, come, I teach you Fiqh Sunnah. But just gathering women and start gisting in under these guys, these are not what these narrations were talking about. I hope that we recall these lessons that we have learned from the number of teachers of Āishah radiyallahu anha. We continue from the next paragraphs in our next class when Al-Imām Adh-Dhahabi said, Musnadu Āishata yablugu alfayn wa mi'atayn, and so on, that narrations that Āishah herself has reported from the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, yablugu alfayn wa mi'atayn, they will be about alfayn wa mi'atayn, 2,200 wa ashra, and 10, 2,210. Ittafaqa laha al-Bukhari wa Muslim, al-Bukhari and Muslim, and so on. Bi-idhnillah, we'll continue from this in our next class. I hope that we got the lessons about the students of Āishah radiyallahu anha, seeking knowledge and seeking knowledge. Bismillah, as we proceed, we'll come back to these matters, and if we find opportunity, we explain them more, inshallah. Abu Abdurrahman.
Assalamu alaikum, ya Shaykhana.
Ameen. Someone is asking a question here. Is Sukaina same as Sakina? They have the same meaning, but one of them came with the siga of At-Tasghir. Sukaina is the same essentially as Sakina, but one of them comes with the siga of At-Tasghir, like Anas and Unais. So you have Sakina and what? Sukaina. So Sukaina is the name of the daughter of Imām Al-Albani rahimahullah. What's Rahman?
Naam ya Shaykhana.
There's a question here. What difference does a man coming to teach them in their homes make from going to the masjid? The difference is that the women should not come out of the homes. They should stay in the homes because Allah said, وَقَرْنَا فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ. Is the difference clear now? Someone is asking, instead of the women coming to the masjid, why should a man go and teach them in a place? Firstly, the Prophet did that. Alayhi salatu wasalam. The Prophet told them, they asked him, give us a day. فَوَاعِدْنَا يَوْمًا. Na'tika, give us a day that we will come to you in the masjid. Instead of saying, come to me in the masjid, they say, don't worry, go to so-so a house, I will come to you there. So they don't come to gather in the masjid, because the masjid is a place for both men and women. So it will reduce and cut off the interaction between men and women. And it will still come under a sort of staying at home, because they are in a home. They are in a home. It will be in a house. It will be away from public place. The masjid is a public place for everybody, but a home is a place for somebody. So they will still be under a home when they come to the home of one of them. So they will not come to the masjid where they are also predisposed to men coming, listening, sitting down, and all of these. That is the difference, and that was what the Prophet did, alayhi salatu wasalam. And his decision and statements and guidance is the best for us.
Jazakumullah khair, Shaykh.
Alayhi salatu wasalam.
Now there is this long question. Jazakumullah khair, Shaykh. My question: we are used to pray in our compound because of the mosque.
Now,
the questioner says, we are used to pray in our compound because of the mosques in our head far the direction of paying their attention to it. They are not ready to change, and the reason why that is the praying now. The father says, my wife has refused to join the Jama'ah inside our compound again, though she not only joined before, but since she had about arrangement for wife, she has refused to join now, saying women best pray in them. The compound is congregated and fence too high, nobody can see us from outside unless the people the gates. Is this right?
Well, the question is lengthy. Yes, and we are used to pray in our compound because the mosques in the area are too far to the direction of the Qibla. Okay, the masjid in their area does not face the Qibla. I think that's what they are saying.
Yes,
many times we say this and this statement is not correct. Please, if that masjid has a scholar of Sunnah, who has some good knowledge of Sunnah, don't contradict him on this matter, on the issue of Qibla. If that masjid you are talking about is away from the Qibla, they have a scholar, a learned person of Sunnah about this matter. Please, many times we criticize a masjid that the masjid is not facing the Qibla, and those criticizing are themselves on the wrong. That's why I say if the learned person if the Imam of that masjid sticking to that position is a well-learned person, please follow his view. He's most likely correct. Because the matters on the issues of Qibla, many of the people have misconceptions regarding it. The Qibla is not a point. The Qibla is a direction. And when Allah commanded us, He says, فَوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ شَطْرَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ. Turn your faces in the direction of, in that way, شَطْرَ الْمَسْجِدِ, in that way. So it is not about exact. So if you put your compass on the ground, it may not be as exact as your compass. So please discuss this matter again. If the Imam in that masjid is a learned person, take to his position, he is most likely right in Allah. As for women, the more they pray in the inner parts of their homes, the better for them. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, that وَبُيُوتُهُنَّ خَيْرٌ لَهُنَّ alayhi salatu wasalam. وَبُيُوتُهُنَّ خَيْرٌ لَهُنَّ. The homes of the women are better for them. That report occurs in Sahih al-Bukhari. بُيُوتُهُنَّ خَيْرٌ لَهُنَّ. So if your wife does not go to the masjid, there is no blame, inshallah. I hope that is clear about the Rahman.
Naam, ya Shaykh.
Can we stop here today? The time is fast spent and I don't like us to break the time.
Naam, ya Shaykh. Assalamu alaikum.
I mean, somebody is asking, how do Muslim women acquire Western education up to university level, considering all you have said? Apply what we have said to what you want to do. Just apply it to it. Apply what we have said to it. You get the rulings, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khair.
Ameen wa antum khair.